Let's get into this. Last night, I was on Chris Hayes' program with Michelle Goldberg, and we were talking about impeachment. And this coming largely, or at least initially, from an interview that Nancy Pelosi did. And now I can't remember where it was done, but it was a print interview. And she was asked about impeachment. She said, no, I'm not going to even bother. You know, why bother with that guy, et cetera, et cetera. Then she was asked about impeachment again on the Hill. And this is what she had to say.
I just don't believe in it. They wanted me to impeach President Bush for the Iraq War. I didn't believe in it then. I don't believe in it now. It divides the country unless there's some conclusive evidence that takes us to that place. Thank you.
Now, let's just for a moment put aside unless there's some type of conclusive evidence, right? In other words, unless like we have Donald Trump on camera, and I have said this for 2.5 years, he will not be impeached unless there is videotape of him stark naked on the White House lawn chasing around a little boy.
And I think we can all conclude now that also is not true. He would still not be impeached.
Well, I don't. It's conceivable, but and last night Hayes like literally questioned whether if there was evidence that he had shot a man to death, would the Republicans impeach him? I would say no.
In the middle of Fifth Avenue, perhaps.
Right, indeed, and so. But putting aside the fact that she said conclusive evidence, which I'm not sure exactly how you get conclusive evidence without any type of investigation short of that scenario. First off, to brag about not impeaching George W. Bush, who not only lied this country into war, not only was involved in the outing of a CIA agent for the sake of maintaining that lie, right? Understand that maintenance of the lie, protecting the fact that there was a lie, is evidence of knowledge that they're lying. That's what a prosecutor would look at. Like, this is the state of mind is proven by the fact they're trying to cover it up. And that's what that was. That was an attempt to cover up the fact that they had lied about the potential for uranium yellow cake to be there. But then, of course, you've got torture. There's a whole nother. In fact, back in the day, I moderated a panel at Town Hall. John Conyers showed up with a book 10 inches thick, maybe a foot thick, of possible impeachment causes. So to brag about that is indicative of the fact that, and then to simply say it's a waste of time, it's divisive. I think there's certainly arguments as to why you would not do this politically, and it's certainly predictable. 2 years ago, I was not just saying that the Republicans wouldn't convict in the Senate in a million years, but that the Democrats would much rather run against a wounded Donald Trump than an impeached one. But the problem with the way that Pelosi is responding to this ignores the fact that impeachment is important. Laying down a marker saying what Donald Trump has done in office, whether it involves the personal enrichment, whether it involves the campaign finance violations, this is all, incidentally, while in office. Whether it involves the fact, the guy was identified in an indictment as a co-conspirator, where his co-conspirator is going to jail in the next couple of weeks for years. So there is no doubt that there has been criminality. Certainly criminality that rises above the idea of lying in a deposition about having sex. 4 years into office after the start of an investigation about something that happened 12 years earlier. But forget the tit for tat thing. Donald Trump is in office, at least in part because of the complete lack of accountability that our government held folks like Steve Mnuchin to, but also the Bush administration. Even if there was an attempt to impeach Bush in 2007 and it failed, even if there was a move to look back and provide indictments or a commission to report back on what George Bush did in office and set down a marker, and nothing happened to George Bush, it would have been better for the country. It would have shown that there is some accountability for people who break the law. And I do think that, look, I don't think that the Democrats can impeach or should impeach before the election. And here's why. The most compelling reason in my mind is we all know that they will not get a conviction in the Senate. And I balance this against the notion of accountability, which is why the rhetoric here is so important. But if they impeach Donald Trump in 2019 or in the summer of 2020, and he wins re-election, they will not have a second bite at that apple. And you will have Donald Trump in office for 4 years, basically, I think in his mind, to his death or as close as you can get, without the threat of removing him from office, with it gone. So all bets are off. I mean, this is, as I said on Hayes last night, as a metaphor. You need to keep at least a bullet in the chamber, because otherwise you're in big, big trouble if he wins re-election, because he's going to know there's no danger for him whatsoever. But the response by Nancy Pelosi should not be impeachment's a waste of time, impeachment's divisive, impeachment's irrelevant. It should be, we can't impeach because the Republicans are protecting a lawbreaker. And we will hold hearings and we will line up indictments and wait to when it's practical to actually get this conviction, because he is engaged in criminality and he must be held accountable. This is crucial, and it is a huge failure on her part to poo-poo the idea of accountability, which is what she's doing when she poo-poos the idea of impeachment.
Yeah, like, shouldn't that be a selling point for people to vote more Democrats into the Senate, maybe?
Well, I mean, I think from her perspective, I mean, I don't want to argue the politics of it, because I think it could go either way, but it could also be an inducement for people to vote, to vote against the Democrat, to vote against Trump and mobilize Republicans to vote the Senate. And the Senate's going to be very difficult for Democrats to get. So, I mean, I think there is a legitimate argument that Republican voters can be, at this point, motivated by stopping Nancy Pelosi. But you simply say, don't use it as a direct pitch. You simply get the narrative out there that Republicans are protecting lawbreaking. Period. End of story. The practicality of this is the problem. You don't go out if you don't have enough police officers. You don't try and raid a drug cartel and put everybody in danger. And that is where we're at. We know there's a lawbreaker. We know where he lives. We know how to go and arrest him. The problem is the Republicans are sitting there and they have more guns and they're going to prevent us from going in.
That is a very good metaphor. He's basically Pablo Escobar without the Horatio Alger story.
Exactly. And he's also got this whole crew of people who are part of a Republican Party, which breaks down the metaphor a little bit. But